I was on a real movie set a few weeks ago, dressed like I was loving the 80s and following the cue to walk back and forth down a street until they got the shot that they needed. This Is Us star Justin Hartley was actually on set. So intrigued by my own experience working in front of the cameras, I enjoyed this experience of being a voyeur, watching the crew, the cameras, the director, the actors trying to make all of these pieces come together. Now, this was just one of many projects filming that day in the city. In fact, at the time, casting director Ilona Smyth had 4 movie productions needing talent that day. Ilona has left her studios today to join me in mine for a very unique, I think, creative, inspiring look at how a young woman built herself an incredibly sought-after business while raising a young child and being very aware of how mental health and about how being able to kind of know what we want in life can affect the entire picture. So welcome to Living Your Life with Lianne Laing, the podcast brought to you by Extension Marketing. And of course, if you're looking for more information, you can always head to extensionmarketing.com. Thanks so much for listening and for tuning in, for sharing, for liking, subscribing. It's been wonderful to see the podcast grow. I am really excited for this one. Ilona, welcome.
Thanks. My first podcast.
I know.
I love them, though.
Which I'm surprised at because, with your story and with so much information, this is the first time that you've kind of swapped the roles.
I'm pretty busy sometimes. Slightly busy.
I got that sense when I saw you as I was kind of whirlwind coming in.
That was a fun day.
That was a very interesting day. I'm going to say that. But it was like I was also watching you. I like watching people. And just to see all of the juggling.
Yeah.
You're like a master juggler.
Well, that was my first time on set wrangling background in almost 6 years. It's usually just my associates who do it, but we had so much going on. We had 250 on one set, 150 on another set downtown that you just got to go back into the trenches sometimes.
It's almost like the CEO having to kind of go and
it's
work
fun.
The
I still love it. And the best about building this business is when I started doing that. So all my staff that works for me, I'm like, I get it all. I understand it all because I've done it all. So there's none of that, feeling of, well, I don't do it.
Right.
It's just,
you've done it.
Yeah, I've done it and I'll do it again if I have to, but I'm usually outsourcing new clients.
Yeah. You're usually, you're working with the talent.
Yeah.
You're not typically working with the background people that were walking back and forth to fill
But I love
space.
them all dearly.
Well, all the pieces need to be working, right?
100%.
For a production to work.
Yeah.
So, can I ask you, I've known of your name. I've known of the agency for quite some time. Mm-hmm. And this is, I find your story very interesting because you don't typically see a young woman.
There's just one of me.
To be able to kind of create this. So, were you always were you a kid that grew up watching movies, loving movies, being into it? Where did this stem from?
So, I would spend a lot of my summers in Toronto with my grandparents, and they didn't necessarily have cable, but they had this great teak little cabinet that had all these old movies. Doris Day and Rock Hudson, rest in peace yesterday, Doris Day.
Yes, I know.
Ingrid Bergman and Humphrey Bogart and Clark Gable and Cary Grant, all these people. And that's what I grew up watching on my weekends.
Classics.
I loved it. I loved it all. And and I'm like an avid reader. And when I read, you think about what those characters would look like in your head. And that's essentially what I get to do for a living, which is fantastic. But I loved all that old Hollywood stuff.
Well, and I'm thinking, too, when you look at the classics, how much really innovative, creative thinking they had to do to be able to capture the feel of it, because they didn't have the CGI, they didn't have everything that we have now. They had to create and figure out how this was going to work.
Yeah. I don't do any of that tech stuff. Probably couldn't. But I don't know. It's very interesting. And even yesterday, Doris Day died, and I was working with 2 of my staff, and I'd mentioned, we're looking at Cary Grant's ex-wife as well as his daughter, and for options for our next movie. And they're like, who's Cary Grant? And I was like, what? How do you guys not know this? I was like, okay, we need to have a lesson on this. But
that's the younger staff, I take it. That
they know the Sprouse brothers and all the really young
Yeah,
kids.
you know what? My kids now, Andy's 14, Jamie's 11. They're naming celebrities, and I used to think that I was really, I was up on things, and especially working in the newsroom, I kind of knew everything that was happening in the entertainment world. And they're mentioning people to me now, and I'm finally getting that what my parents got when I was talking about, like when Madonna and Wham and all these people were starting to come out, or like Teen Beat and 17 magazine were coming out. Like I would, I've now realized that I'm. But now
we also have YouTubers and Instagrammers and all of that.
Yeah, I'm thinking I know the actors and actresses and singers, but they'll say something and I'm like, who, what? And they're like, no, they're a YouTuber, or absolutely, or even like Musical.lys, and it's crazy. Yeah. Do you ever look at those places for talent too?
So I do, although. Because I go to a lot of the markets, like the European film market, the American film market, and meeting with different distribution companies, there was a small amount of time where looking at YouTubers to star in movies to help bring their following. But then what you kind of realize is the kids that follow these YouTubers want to see them being genuinely themselves.
Right.
They don't want to see them pretending to be someone else. They'd rather pay $40 and go see them at the mall than 12 whatever to go see them at the movies, be something they're not.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That you tend to figure out what these markets are looking for. Okay, so you grow up watching all of the classics.
All the classics.
Reading a ton of books. I find it interesting that when you're reading the books, you were creating characters, what they look like, how they were going to act in your head. Yeah. Do you find most people in your position do that? Because I think we all independently, like, okay, let's take 50 Shades of Grey, for example, right? We all had our own Christian Grey in our head, right? So it was almost like, for so many people, casting that one role, everyone had their own fantasy. Yeah. That was probably one of the hardest roles to cast. I think they did a brutal job, by the way.
Yeah, Jamie Dornan probably wasn't the best.
Not the best at all.
And it's so great because even in the preview, you see this beautiful back, and you're like, all right, I like this. And then he turns around, and you're like, oh, the boy next door. Not what I was going for.
Yeah, I thought that was a bad casting.
Yeah. Well, they had, who do they have before that?
The Sons of Anarchy guy? Yeah.
It's going to drive me nuts that I can't think of his name right now. But that was
Oh, no, Veronica's yelling.
What? Not Kim Coates. Oh,
no.
What? Well, we know what her 50 Shades, her Mr. Grey is. Clearly Kim Coates. It's amazing. Who's great. I love Kim dearly. But his name is totally escaping me. But that was like a bad business move, I'd say, for him, because he chose to do King Arthur and finish out the rest of 50 Shades. But when you're a TV actor and you're moving to features, you're a business yourself, and your worth based on the sales of that movie depend. And turning down that movie that had a built-in audience to do King Arthur, which did not and didn't do great, was probably not the best choice. I'm sure his agent could have given him a little bit of better advice.
Little different advice. Yeah. Okay, so we're kind of going through this. You're book reading, you're seeing this stuff. Yeah. Where in all of this where do you study? What are you looking at? Like, how are you advancing yourself? Because I don't think you thought right at this age that I'm going to be a casting director. I didn't even know that was a job. A huge agency.
It was like nurse, doctor, lawyer, policeman. It was very basic.
There's three of you, three siblings.
Yes.
Okay,
and
you were in Toronto.
No, we were in Ottawa.
You were all in Ottawa. Yeah. Okay, so grandparents were in Toronto.
Grandparents were in Toronto.
You guys are here.
Yeah.
Easy childhood?
Amazing childhood. Yeah. I literally grew up like Leave It to Beaver. Best parents. Yeah.
Have we had many guests sitting in this chair?
No, it was like...
I don't think we have.
They're still, and they're like, they've been together since, they're 14. They're madly in love still.
Your parents have been together since they're 14.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so gross but beautiful at the same time. Like in high school, I'd come home and catch them on the couch and be like, oh my God. Like it was polar opposites. They're still crazy about each other. It's
That's so
really,
special.
Really cute. Yeah. Yeah. But they're the best humans, and they never told us or limited us in any way about what we would be. And my sister's very successful. She's the golden child. But we all he was like, just be happy and do what you love. Yeah.
Ilona, you have a massive casting agency.
Yeah.
And yet she's a successful
She really is.
What does she do?
So she works for Canada Basketball or Basketball Canada. She always gets mad at me because it's the opposite. And what she does is she watches different basketball practices and then comes back and implements them in the Canadian system.
Okay.
So she's basically in charge of all the basketball coaches in Canada.
The development.
Yeah, the development of it. And she just wrote a book for the NBA, and she guest speaks for the NBA around the world.
Nice.
Yeah.
And she's from here?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, she lives in Toronto now.
Okay.
And then for fun, she would keep the Raptors games on the side.
Oh, and the Raptors
I
now.
know. She
That
was
she
like,
must be excited for
she
that.
was right there. It was
So,
a great game.
high school sweetheart parents.
Yes.
They're 14, madly in love still.
Yeah, it's
So
ridiculous.
it's really nice to be able to see that. And you're going through school. Where do you think you're going to end up?
Honestly, I had no idea. My sister knew she wanted to do basketball from the time she was like 12 years old. So she was like volunteering and coaching kids and refereeing. And I always felt like, I don't know what I want to do. And I would just do what she did, mainly because my mom's like, I'm dropping you both off at one place. So you're going to do some basketball too.
She had to go home
and
hanky with your dad on the couch.
Basically, yeah. And I would get that's why she picked me up late all the time. It makes so much sense. But I would get her old basketball shoes, like to the point that I thought I had a size 9 foot till I was like 17, till I went to go buy my own rollerblades, and my foot's a size 8.
Oh, okay.
But it's because I would get the hand-me-downs. I'm like, Mom, they don't fit right. She's like, yep, that's how a shoe fits. Like, total Latvian immigrant mother was like, just use it. So I just did what she did, and I did love the arts. I loved singing. I used to train and sing opera. My dad's really big into music. He plays blues all around the city. So there's a big arts side to my life. And my dad was a lawyer, so we'd always, or is still a lawyer, but we'd always like debate at dinner and like negotiate, which is kind of what I do now too. And just see different sides of people, which is also like a very empathetic thing to do, which a lot of actors come in and they're just completely vulnerable in front of you, and a lot like what you do, and just being present and relating to them and giving them guidance on how to be even more vulnerable is kind of what I do, right?
I listen. Like I love to listen to a story and then to be able to, to get more out of a person, but it's authentic what I'm getting.
Right.
You're asking people to be able to turn something on that they might not be feeling in that moment, right?
Correct.
They might come in feeling pretty good, and then you're like, I need you to be really sad.
Yeah.
Or they might be having a really depressed day, and they've got to come in like, this is the best day ever.
Totally. And it's not an easy job to do, but I coach actors as well. I privately coach a few of them, and I use a lot of Meisner, so it's pulling from your past experiences. So with my actors that I coach, it's almost like we've done our therapy, and we can look at sides, which are the lines actors need to learn for an audition, and we can point to things. I'll be like, think of your aunt, think of this, think of that. And it's really just about, people watch a movie to see themselves in it. Right? That's what we're hoping for when we go to the movies, and to take something away. We don't want to watch someone act. That's not fun. We want to experience what they're experiencing, because we can relate to it. Even if it's not directly, we want to feel that.
I feel so much better now because I watch Wonder Woman and I'm like, I totally want to be her. Like, I think we would be best friends, right? Yes.
Yeah.
That's interesting that's the perspective you go with, that people want to see themselves in these characters. Yeah. So how do you get into this? Okay, so school is what? What do you do?
So I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went and took early childhood education at Algonquin, because I was like, oh, maybe I'll be a kindergarten teacher, because it was safe. And at this point, I was madly in love with someone, and I was like, well, I'm just going to do the like...
Yeah, you've been madly in love with this person since you were 6. You guys started dating at 16, right? So this relationship starts at 16.
Yeah. So to me, it was, like I'll do the... what you're supposed to do thing, right? Like, I think we're both very much following the line of what we felt adulthood, quote unquote, is. So I decided I didn't know for sure what I wanted to do. So I didn't want to go straight to university, because my father, bless him, paid for my schooling. And so I was like, I'm not going to cost you that much. I'll go do my ECE until I know for sure what I want to do. So I did that for 2 years at Algonquin, which I actually find has been very helpful with a lot of directors and producers I deal with. Just like getting down to someone's level, like
playing nice,
dealing with arguments between people, and being able to be the middleman. It's,
that's...
Use how you feel in your conversation,
emotions.
It's actually been very helpful.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Wow. And I actually feel like every parent should just have to take that. Like, it should be a prerequisite to ever
being a
having
parent.
sex. Your 16-year-old daughter is like, maybe I'm thinking. You're like, okay, well, you have to take this 2-year course. And then if you're still down,
you can go have sex.
Yeah, there you go.
So you're doing early childhood.
Yeah. And then I finished that, and I get a job at Glee Parents Daycare, and it was great, and I loved it, and I loved the kids. And I took psychology at Carleton. So while I was there, I was working the before and after care at Glebe Parents. And while I was in university, I started teaching acting classes through like another woman's acting studio.
Were you acting in high school? Like, were you doing drama?
So I did,
were you
like,
doing the plays?
I did
like,
plays.
theater? Okay.
I did musical theater. I did all those things. And I was singing, right?
Okay.
So that I really enjoyed. I do the Kiwanis, all those kind of things. It was my therapy. I'd go sing. Even now, like when I'm upset, I'll be singing. My staff gets really annoyed. It's like, how many times do you have to listen to Over the Rainbow?
I'll ask you to sing before the end of the podcast.
No, please don't. or Beyonce constantly. Like, number one interview question for me is, how do you feel about Beyonce? You could not like her. I just want to know how you feel about her. That's like number one, because music's literally my religion, is what I saw.
Hopefully, you might have some future casting some clients. Yes.
Anyway, so so I'm working at the daycare. I'm in university, and I'm also working at this acting studio where I'm just teaching classes to like kids. And we had some guest directors come in, like David Rotenberg and Rael and Bodie, who were fantastic. And I would audit their classes and learn the way they were coaching and, you know, things like that. And I read the Meisner book and watching all these things online.
So this Meisner is really about hitting deep into a person's personal experiences.
Mm-hmm. And then I decide to switch to film studies because I find it really interesting. And I was like, oh, this is what I should have been doing this whole time. So I switched to film studies, still working at the daycare. And this woman I worked for did background casting for movies of the week that were coming into town. But she also wanted to be an actress. So it's kind of a conflict of interest because she would exchange background casting for roles in the movie, which you're not supposed to do. And then I wouldn't always necessarily get paid, but I didn't care because I just loved the process of like filling these roles. And background casting, people can just be like, oh, you just put people in the background, but you're really creating a feel for the scene. And, you know, you still need male-female ratio, ethnicity ratio. And, you know, if it's a business scene or a high school scene or whatever, some of these extras really stand out and are really interesting. Mm-hmm. So I was doing that. And then my very best friend told me that she got a job at the government and she had a 6-month bridge-in period. She goes, let's go backpack Europe for 3 months. And I go, okay. And she's like, I can never do it again. I'll never be able to take vacation again. She's a total liar because she's done she's working for the government. She just did Australia like last year and she's done Thailand. And I'm like, okay, but I'll drop out of school. Let's go do this. So we do. And we do that for 3 months. And then I come back and I was like crazy in debt. And I got a job working at Wild Wings while working at the daycare, while helping book the background just to pay off my credit card like crazy. I did. And then eventually quit Wild Wings. It was very dramatic. And then
because I'm right now craving like
hot
like breaded wings.
Yeah. Anyway, so then I go back to the daycare and the woman I'd worked for called me and said, you know, I really want to be an actor and this isn't what I want to do. Would you like to buy my business? And I said, yeah, just like give me a day to think about it. So I did. And I paid her 20% of what I did for the first 2 years. And then what I also did was I went to the different producers and said, you know, I can help you get principal roles as well. And some of the larger principal roles, instead of having to bring everyone in from Toronto, I can save you on per diem, et cetera. Let me try that. And they said, okay. So I started.
How old are you at this point?
22, 21. So I do that. And then what I did is I went online on IMDb, Internet Movie Database for people who don't know what it is. So I go in and I look up all my favorite movies and I look at who those casting directors are. And I probably sent like 35 to 40 emails to all these different casting directors in LA and said, I'm going to be in LA for a week and I'd love to sit down and meet with you. Only 2 responded, one being Deb Aquila, who's the head of Lionsgate, and Meg Lieberman, who's the head of CBS. So I went to both those lots, met with both of them.
That's pretty interesting that they would respond in the first place.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but like an email coming from a you know, and can I say at the time, like a no name reference?
Yeah, I was totally a nobody, and I'd done maybe 4 movies, and I'd said, you know, this is what I'm doing. I'm in Ottawa, Canada, and this is, you know, where I want to be, and blah blah. I just love some guidance and to get to know you. And so Meg said her thing, and what's crazy is all these other ones that didn't do as amazing things as these 2 women didn't respond, but Meg goes, I want to know everybody. And she attributes that to part of her success, which makes sense, right? So that was great. And then I came back, and what I did was my ex and I bought a house. And
who's this? You're saying
my ex and I had bought a house.
But what's his name?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Oh, no. Okay. Oh, so you said my ex.
My ex and I.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. I was like, did she say a name? Okay.
No. So my ex and I bought a house. So
this
now we're doing
person.
like.
Okay, but this is, you've been there since 16.
So we're now doing the white picket fence by, you know, a nice suburbia home in Riverside South, and, you know, got my SUV and
life. And now you're coming
have
back
a home
from LA.
office.
Yes.
And, you know, now I'm really going to do it. And, you know, and the movie started really taking off. I got it. Michael Tuesdays and Thursdays TV show with Don McKellar. Like I started doing really well. And I changed what the woman before me had into an actual business. Probably the business acumen I got from my dad, from being a lawyer and a partner in a firm, and understanding, you know, how can I streamline what I'm doing. So I did. And then I was still working at the daycare. So I'd work 7:30 to 9:15.
At the daycare.
At the daycare in the Glebe. And then I'd drive to Riverside South. And then I would work in my home office. I'd have my staff meet me there. And we would work till 3. I'd go back to the daycare. I'd work till 5:30. I'd go back home. And I'd work till like 10 p.m. every day for almost 3 years. It was crazy. And then I just had a full-blown mental breakdown because it was insane. My weekends, my 20s weren't spent going to the club, getting drunk. They were spent, you know, just working and building this company. And even before I bought my house, you know, I'd convince my girlfriends to come over and hang out in my parents' basement, and I'd supply a bottle of wine we'd all call extras. That was like our Friday nights. I'm like, come on, we'll just drink here. We don't need to go out.
This is what I think people don't realize about what it takes to build a business. Yeah. That it's, you know, Friday night spent in a basement convincing your friends that drinking a bottle of wine and calling extras is going to do the work, or having the job twice a day.
Yeah, because you need security. Like I need a steady paycheck because I was working contract work, and it wasn't as busy as it is now. And I didn't have as many clients literally around the world like I do now. So,
but you needed those years to build it.
Totally. So it was, you know, sacrificing personal time. It was sacrificing, you know, freedom to do whatever. And at one point, my sanity.
Okay, so what happens then? You're how long then with your ex at this point?
I don't know, 10 years?
10 years in. Not a mom yet.
No, not a mom
not
yet.
A mom yet.
No, there's no way. It's really hard. But yeah, no mom yet.
No mom yet.
Yeah.
But it's a full kind of exhaustion breakdown from just building. So how many years in at this pace are you going before you start to say, this is not working?
About 3.
3 years at that pace.
Yeah.
And what happened?
About 25-ish. Maybe 26, actually. It might have been 4 years. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep anymore, and I would just uncontrollably cry. I'd show up to the daycare, and I would just start crying, and I'd have to leave. And it was just, and I was like, I don't even know why I'm crying. I couldn't function. I couldn't sleep at night. And I remember I went to my doctor, and I said, I think I need to quit my job. And I didn't want to leave because it was, you know, even when I broached like my parents about it, you know, my mom's like, well, they both had one job their whole life. You don't leave a job that has a pension and benefits. You know, you don't do that. You know, it's a nice hobby you have going on the side, but, you know, you really, you know, I was able to get my house because of that job. Mm-hmm. Right. So, I was getting conflicting reviews from everyone. And I went to my doctor and I said, I can't sleep. And I can't stop crying. And I just want to sleep so bad. And she goes, well, I said, I think I might have to quit my job. And she goes, we don't recommend doing that, especially if you have benefits, especially if you're in this state, because you shouldn't make decisions like that in this state. So I was handed sleeping pills and some antidepressants, and I like walked like a zombie. I went and filled out the prescription drugs, and then got home and I mean, it could have worked perfectly and I probably could have kept going, but I threw them out and I called the daycare and I quit. And then I went and I slept for 13 hours straight and I just slept. And then I woke up and I was like, okay, I'm going to put everything into this now because I have a mortgage to pay every month and I have all this other stuff to take care of. And I don't know if I could ever get that job back.
It's interesting that every person around you is saying, go A.
Yeah.
And then you kind of go home and go B.
Totally B. Yeah.
Like you went in the very different direction. Yeah. And yet that was probably, if you look at it, such a pivotal moment of you.
Huge.
Like that going home and putting the prescription pills on the side and going, no, I'm just you. I think in your gut, you knew.
I knew I wasn't depressed, right? And
so that wasn't it. You weren't depressed.
I wasn't depressed. I was run down. I was done. I was exhausted. I had too much on my plate and I had no quality of life, and I couldn't keep running that way because then maybe it would have turned into depression. But I definitely caught up first. I have so many friends who have gone on so many antidepressants and it's worked wonderfully for them. But that's what they needed. I knew that it wasn't depression for me. I knew I had too much and the pressure is what was eating me away inside.
So what happens when you wake up? So you sleep your 13 hours and it was like this. Did you wake up feeling like you're in a magical place with unicorns and rainbows? Or did you realize that you had a really long road ahead?
Basically, I woke up and was like, okay, I slept. So that's a step.
And by saying like you weren't sleeping, were you really just...
I really probably hadn't slept in like 3 days. Like I couldn't sleep. I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't stop sleeping.
Was your head spinning? Was it lists of things? Like, I'm going to tell you right now, I get up in the middle of the night these days and I can't go back to sleep because like my checklist in my head of, I didn't email this person back. I didn't do this. I didn't do this. I didn't do this. I didn't do this. And I just get into like such this negative, all the failures that I had that day of what I didn't accomplish. And it keeps me up.
It wasn't that. It was I couldn't relax enough to just sleep. I couldn't settle. And I wake up in moments like that, even now with like to do or like, oh, I should have. I call them creative moments because I get up with great ideas and start writing or doing something like that.
Do you have a pen or a pad beside the bed?
I got my journal right beside the bed all the time. But yeah, there's moments like that. But I was just, I remember I was on the phone with my best friend who I went to Europe with. And I walked into the house and our house had no like direct houses facing us, but like the siding of another house. And I walk in the house and no one's home and the lights are off. And I was like, oh my God, Ash, like I'm seeing people like through the back of my window. And I'm like, oh my God, maybe I'm schizophrenic. Maybe like I need to go to the hospital now. But it turned out my neighbor was just projecting a movie onto the siding of the house. But I was at that state that I'm like, something is like, and she was like, oh my God, what? And I was like, oh no, it's fine. But like they're just crying on the phone. Like I was done. But I didn't wake up being like, okay, it's perfect now and life's great. And, I was like, was that the biggest mistake? Did I just let go of my security? Will this continue to work? Will I continue to get contracts? Will I be able to pay for things? I had no idea.
This podcast is brought to you by Extension Marketing. They are a new breed of marketing agency that acts as your virtual marketing department, designing and implementing cost-effective marketing strategies that will grow your business. I can speak to this personally, as I've been using the Extension Marketing team to help me launch and grow my business. Founder Pat Whalen has been a lifesaver for me, a genuine coach, guiding me along the way into uncharted territory. Tell them you're a friend of the show and receive a free 1-hour consultation. Check them out at extensionmarketing.com.
Right. So
you wake up after 13 hours.
Yeah.
Your ex, who is, at this point been in your life for 10 some years, kind of comes home and you're like, hey, honey, guess what I did today?
I think he knew it was coming. Yeah. Like we're really good communicators to a point. But he was like, do not take the drugs. You're not depressed. I see you just running yourself to the ground. That's probably more it. And at the time he was like, you do what makes you happy. So, which was great. And we'll figure it out. And we did. So that was really helpful to have.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it was just my parents' mindset of the way they were brought up, right?
I think that's what a lot of people still battle is the expectations of what people expect you to be doing. You know, and oftentimes you don't choose the life you want to be living based on expectations or what you think people are expecting of you.
Correct. Even as a kid, my dad would be like, what are you going to be when you grow up? And I'd be like, happy. And he'd be like, can't get mad at that. Okay.
That's a good answer.
It's a great answer. Really gets people off your back.
It does.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
So at this point, how does the business grow? Because you have then taken Smyth Casting to a very different level. I mean, when you're talking about you've got, 300 and some people on any given day working sets, working things. What was the joy for you? Was it seeing a successful production or seeing a young actor or actress make it and do a great job in their first role? Like, where's the passion aspect for you?
So I think a lot of it is guiding actors. So I've brought, again, I coach actors, and there's also people who've done background work for me, and I've seen them, helped them get an agent, and then from that agency, be a lead on a network series for Netflix. Like I've seen things like that change in people's lives, and I've watched people grow as actors, and especially in such a regional market where there's so much ignorance to the industry.
Are we ignorant here?
Oh, completely ignorant to, like tips on how to get an agent. People don't understand.
But is there a lot of talent? What are the expectations?
Here's the thing.
Do people I just want to be famous?
Well, that's ridiculous.
Right? But you
can do it now. YouTube and Instagram and all that. You can just be famous if you want to and hawk, hair supplements and make money that way if that's truly what you're passionate about. But I doubt that's really what's going to make you happy at the end of the day. But watching actors who are actually interested in the art and build their career and make the right choices and put in the work. It's when preparation meets opportunity with anything in life. And you see them do this. To me, that feels great because I know I've helped some of these people along the way. And that feels good. And giving people opportunity. I make people's day when they get cast. Making that phone call if they don't have an agent, or even to the agent saying, so it's their time, and people who I've seen take classes and classes and classes and are just like, and then they finally get cast. It's great.
But it could often be like they could be the best actors, but it could come down to the look, the height, the the voice. Like there's
you could
so
look
many
like
things that
the
are
director's
so out of your
ex-wife,
control.
and they don't want to hire you. There's so many things out of your control.
Is that the tough part? Is that frustrating?
It's very frustrating because I don't actually get to choose the actor, right?
You just offer them.
It's my job to invite you to the party. It's your job to win over the room, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally does. And is that what you tell people when they walk into your office?
Basically. And, I teach them relaxation and things like that on how not to, screw themselves over. But people have bad days and it happens. But the difference is my job as casting director is to tell the director who I know is polite, who's great, who's going to be fun on set in those long hours, who is well trained, who can, create something with the character and bring something different than what might just be right on the page. It'll be.
Do you go back to your childhood days of reading a script and in your head picturing or imagining that person?
Sometimes, even now when I'm old school with scripts, I always have a pen and paper. I still like printing them so I can and then I use it all for my notes. But I'll write exactly. Now I think of actors and not just what people look like. So I think of actors that I know as I read, and I'll write it down and start making my list right there as I read.
Okay, so let's go through this. So you've got parents.
I do.
Yes, no. But you have parents who think their kids could be a star, right? So what's it like dealing with them? Let's go through kind of.
That's a lot. It's great. So I actually run a workshop specifically for parents who want to get their kids into the industry because, again, it's a regional market and people are ignorant to how it works here. And there is a lot of talent here. It's, talent we're not limited on talent. It's not geographical, but opportunity is, if that makes sense. And I just want to make sure that if parents are putting their kids to work, because that's literally what your kid will be doing, is working, you're there, it's long hours. You need to know your kid wants to be doing it and is comfortable, and you need to know all the rules before doing it.
What are the rules?
Well, you should know the child labor laws. You should know the ACTRA rules for a kid on set. You should know what an agent's supposed to be doing, what an agent shouldn't be doing, where the money goes, how to properly invest your kid's money, all those kind of things, so that you're not showing up to set and not understanding the process.
So there's a workshop that you do for them.
Specifically for them.
For them. You've got a kid who's 17 off the street saying, oh my God, everyone tells me I'm so beautiful. And they said I should be an actress. Cool. What do you say to,
You're beautiful. That's awesome. Do you want to act? Do you want to learn how to act? Because sometimes people, you find a diamond. And I used to run like open casting calls once a year. I've just been too busy to do it. Maybe I'll do it again next year. But some of these people are those kids just off the street. And I'll maybe find one diamond out of 400 of someone who's just very natural and doesn't have to work at it. But it's very rare. 1
in 400, you would say.
Yeah.
That would even catch a glimpse of, there's some talent there.
Yeah. Or, like you could hear someone with, a nice voice and say, with the right training and learning the right breathing technique, it'd be incredible. Right? So it's the same kind of thing. And there are tone deaf actors as well. I've audited classes, because I audit classes in Toronto and LA, and I see actors who I'm like, oh, this guy's here again. Still just not getting it, and it's a shame. But if they're there and they're enjoying their time, then have at it. But
it's a passion.
Yeah, but it's still
project.
A thing.
How has it changed in terms of the demographics, the look? We just saw like a Sandra Oh really making a massive stand in terms of the look and the ethnicity. It's changing. Is it changing as fast as we think it is, or not really?
Oh, no, it definitely is.
Yeah.
Right from the beginning. But I think I was always, whenever I would read a script, I'd always say, can this also be a woman? Can this cop also be a woman? Just to open it up. Why are we, especially...
So you would see cop, but then you would say in your head, does it say it has to be a male cop or a female cop?
Exactly. Or even if it said male lawyer, I go, could we also make this lawyer a female? Like, I constantly was doing that since I started. Same with ethnicity. Unless I'm matching a family that doesn't have an adoption story, then...
That doesn't have an adoption story,
yeah,
right?
Then it just makes total sense that, trying to match a family. Other than that, it's, I'm now seeing leads that would never have been leads 5 years ago. But the difference is trying to convince people to give other people opportunities whose resumes aren't as full as maybe the white guy's resume, right?
They've had more opportunity.
Because they've had more opportunity in the past.
So you're building this business. You are going full throttle ahead. When does motherhood, when does all this? Because this gets thrown into the mix while you're doing all of this.
Yeah.
And let's be realistic. You throw motherhood into building a business, kind of juggling a schedule. And this is where I feel like the superhuman powers.
And it's also an erratic schedule. There's nothing like...
It's not a 9 to 5.
You don't know when you're done work. You're done when we're done, essentially.
I felt that the day that I was on set with you.
Yeah. So I
was like, so I guess it just needs to rain a little bit more and then we'll be done. Because then they're just going to wrap it.
Basically. So I ended up pregnant. I believe I was 28.
So then you've been with this person for 12 years.
Yeah.
16. It's like childhood sweetheart.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 28, we get pregnant. And we were like, vacillating. Do we get married or try for a baby? And his family had issues conceiving. So we're like, well, that would be the cost of a wedding if it didn't work. So let's just
go there first
and see. And, whatever, we've been together forever. That wasn't a thing to me. I always tell my mom, like, yeah, I think we'd have a surprise wedding. And she's like, oh, that'd be fun to plan. I was like, no, I mean, like, surprise, I got married 2 weeks ago. To me, that's just, not my idea of a fun time. I'm like, I don't like enough people to buy them dinner, which isn't true. I like
I have a feeling you have enough people in there. Yeah, but I like that. Mom, we're thinking of a surprise wedding. Oh, that's so great. Yeah, no, not the way you're thinking.
Anyways, so end up pregnant. Pretty decent pregnancy, migraines from time to time. And I remember The Best Laid Plans, which was a primetime series that came to Ottawa that was shooting off of a book that a guy named Terry Fallis wrote, all about the Parliament. It was really interesting. But I met with them when I was like 6 months pregnant, and they're like, hey, we want you to do the casting. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to be like, and they're like, no, we still want you. It's fine. I was like, okay. So I had that at an $8 million feature from Australia that was a period piece. And we had like 1,000 extras on this movie.
Shooting here
and in Upper Canada Village. And I had...
there's so much going on that we have no clue is going on.
Yeah. And I had, I think 2 Lifetime movies as well as a bunch of those A&W commercials going like...
Oh, yeah.
Like, best burger, try it, which is fun. And right into like my 10th month of pregnancy, I'm on set. I was still doing all the background work. But I have a picture of me there with like 100 extras around. I'm like huge typing on my computer. And then I went into labor 8 days early. I had 2 days off that I knew was going to be that weekend. And I was like, I can't wait to not be working and just have my feet up for 2 days.
Right, before I go to give...
Yeah, and I was like cycling 3 dresses at this point because I'm like, whatever would just get on me. And it was July and I was so hot. I was just wearing flip-flops and wearing these dresses all the time. And then I remember I was working. It was late. It was like 11 p.m. at night in my office at the house. And I had 2 staff over.
There's still staff at your house at 11 o'clock at night?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, we had a lot of movies. We had a lot of things going on. And TV shows shoot in blocks. So it shot in like 6 blocks. So we're casting for one while the other one's shooting. Mm-hmm. Well, this one's got by anyways. And that $8 million feature had like 100 and something casts. It was a lot. But I'm sitting there. I'm like, oh, I'm getting these pains. What's going on? And my associate's like, you're in labor. And I was like, get your job done. Like, we're not here to throw stones. Let's just get our job done, okay? She's like, okay. Anyways, then I go to bed. And at this point, my ex and I were sleeping head to toe because I couldn't handle the breathing because I was just very sensitive in my last week of pregnancy. And I remember I was like scrolling Facebook and I'm like, okay, if this kid's born today, because I was getting like the Braxton Hicks situation, I was like, who do I know born today? And there's this one guy in high school that I couldn't stand that was born the same day. And he was like, it would make substitute teachers cry. And he'd always be like, I'm Ilona, because I'd always have my shoulders up or something. And I was like, oh, that guy was so mean. Anyways, I go into full labor and I have this thing where I always want to shower when I don't feel well. Like anytime I get a little too drunk, I try to take a bath and try to Whitney Houston myself. My friends always get mad at me. This is like, younger years.
It's like a bath though? It's not like a shower?
Or a shower bath.
Okay,
either
okay.
or. Anyway, so I get into the shower and my ex is like, I think you're in labor and I should call the hospital and like we should leave. And I was like, so-and-so was born today. And unless you can find me a decent human that's born, I'm not going to go. And he was like, what? And he's like,
you can find a single celebrity born on that day.
Well, so he's like Googling. He's like, Sandra Bullock, Mick Jagger. And I'm like, no. Anyways, my godmother ended up being born, or my mom's best friend, on the same day. So I got out of the shower. I was like, okay, let's go. So I go, 13 hours of labor. I miss, I want to say 12 phone calls while I'm in labor because he's 8 days early and it happened at night and no one was expecting that. So eventually after we had the kid and the whole family's there, I get rolled in.
Wait, I'm sorry. So eventually after we have the kid, okay, yeah. Well,
we're still in the hospital.
Okay.
I get rolled into our room and I'm like on the phone. I had to call one producer back and say, and he's like, where were you? I've been calling you. And I was like, sorry, I just had my kid. And he's like, when? I was like, like 2 hours ago. And he's like, okay, call me Monday. I was like, it is Saturday morning. I was like, okay. The other one who's a really good friend of mine and a business partner of mine now, I just literally took a picture of my kid and texted him and said, I did this today. So I was like, oh. He's like, oh, okay, fair. So yeah, then I'm lying there and then the nurse comes and she's like, oh, Ilona Smyth, like Smyth Casting Smyth? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, oh, my son and my husband are in your database. And I'm like, great. So then I gave her some advice while breastfeeding, while she's teaching me how to breastfeed. And then 3 days later, I was downtown in a casting session for the next block of that TV show.
Do you have the kid? Because right now we're calling him the kid.
The kid,
Yeah.
Corbin, the sweetest,
Thank you.
the sweetest little boy. He
Is he joining you on? He must be joining you on set. So
yes.
he's just with you at work.
So my mom, bless her heart, was a NICU nurse for 35 years. And the second, essentially, I had him, she's like, and I retire. And I was like, thank you. So when I say, like, I have the best family, and there's a truth to that safety net, and it's not necessarily a financial safety net, I'd say, for my family. It's more of about a support. Like, we all know we have each other no matter what in any situation. You know, like my sister gets her heart broken. I'm like, I'll fly to Toronto tomorrow or whatever, you know, like we're there and we'll figure a way to make it work. So my mom was, you know, walking around with the stroller, and then I'd step out and feed him and give him back. And yeah.
3 days like
yeah. It was technically 4 days later, but I mean, 2 of those were in the hospital.
right. So I'll give you the 4 days.
Okay.
Right. Yes. Wow.
Yeah. Thanks. Oh.
Is there any postpartum? Like, I mean, you have no chance to slow down your
Right. No, but I did end up back in Emerge 7 days later. Just because I had an episiotomy and I wasn't taking care of it.
No, you were on set.
Yeah, I was working.
Yeah.
So she was like, what are you doing? I was like,
do you suggest this? I mean, like, I get the hustle. I get there's a hustle needed.
yeah.
Do you think you could have done it without the hustle? Like, could you have,
At the
looking
time,
back, you didn't think?
now I could.
Yeah.
Now I could. But I'm a girl who was a creative. I, was learning business acumen as I was running a business. So even learning to delegate post having Corbin, like, I'd never not done the background work. So for me, I'm like, it's not fair to have staff in my home anymore, and I went and got an office, right? I'm like, that's not fair to my kid to have these people coming in and out. And not fair to have the phone ringing and me have to mute it or unplug it at night. So it turned into, and I was getting like some weird death threats and some weird online people.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
Why would
no,
you
just commentary. Like, I find this industry kind of attracts, some characters. And then, I, for liability reasons, don't put specific people on set. And then it turns into like angry messages or phone calls on the office phone. And like, yeah, there's moments like that. Not so much anymore, but I just didn't like the idea of it being in my house anymore either, especially with him there. So I moved to the office, and, yeah, so that was better, but there is the hustle, and I learned to delegate and no longer be doing the background work and be getting phone calls at 10 o'clock at night or 2 a.m. if I have, an overnight shoot and something's not working and they need to call me. I've now delegated that to my associates. Mm-hmm. And there's more than one of us, so we take turns. So it's not like one person's constantly on call
at 2 o'clock in the morning. Did you like Motherhood? Like, are you?
I love it. Mm-hmm. I love it. And he was such a great baby, and he's such a great kid, and he's such a character and so imaginative. And it's just fun to like see everything again, but through his eyes. It's really, really cool.
You'd like to be able to think this has like this happy ending of like, high school sweethearts at 16.
Yeah.
You build this business. You have,
no,
finally
it's
have
life.
a baby.
It doesn't work that way.
Yes. So the expectations and the doing everything the way you were supposed to eventually kind of
falls broke. And you know what? I mean, I could sit here and go over like 1,000 reasons. Maybe I worked too much. I know he had a company that wasn't doing great at the time. So maybe I emasculated him. Maybe he just didn't love me. Who knows? But all I know is it became very verbally abusive for a period of time. And I'm not someone who's going to sit by and allow that to happen. And for all those years, we didn't fight very often at all. And it really came down to just like a lot of effect on the words he was saying to me and in front of our child. And I basically just turned to him and said, I put Corbin for a nap, and I said, the things you're saying aren't very nice, and we have little ears around. I'm not going to have a boy grow up and listen to a man speak to a woman this way. So you have 2 choices. Go stay with your mom for a couple of days or smarten up and let's make this work. And he said, I'm just done. Just as simple as that, and walked out the door. So it was straight into the house of the girl he had been with. So one of those situations. But I was, probably not as attentive and working and didn't notice you know, I had inklings of something else going on.
I mean, it's hard to, right? You're on a set. You're in places. You've got.
Yeah, I wasn't so much on set at that time.
No,
but
I'm listening to this schedule that you're keeping, and not to say anything, but I mean to be able to have this discussion, and it wasn't really a discussion. It was like, okay, I have A and B, and I'm going A. So you're then Corbin's 2.
Corbin's 2, and I was devastated. I was my first heartbreak.
Well, yeah, you hadn't had any. You've been with this.
I don't even know what that experience is like. Plus, I can't just take 2 weeks off work for sick leave or something while I try to mend this situation. And I had a house to carry and daycare to carry and a business to carry and staff to carry and had to keep working, right? Other people's livelihoods were dependent on me, you know, continuing.
Can you go in your office and cry?
Oh, so many times. Okay. So many times. And like now I had lawyers and it was like, oh my God, what happened to my life? You know, and it got ugly for a bit and then it was okay. And it was just, you know, I didn't understand what I did to have been treated that way. And I felt a lot. And then I'd lost like a lot of friends, a lot of people because I found out a lot of people had known. So I cut all those people from my life. You know, I still had my immediate family. I had my girls, my best friends, and actually some of his family still. But like it was just like you know, it was heartbreaking, and it was really hard to. I felt like, which sucks because having had my early childhood education, my favorite age group was 2 to 3. Those kids, like every day they learn a new word. Every day there's something new and different and, you know, just taking the time to go to the park and whatever. And I felt like I wasn't present from 2 to 3 in my kid's life. I feel like I really missed that because I felt like I was a walking zombie. Like I was so heartbroken. I was so busted and angry and sad and confused and didn't understand how someone could do that to me or you know, even the person he did it with, I'd met. And to me, I was like, this is insane, you know? So overcoming all that and just accepting was faster than the average person because I'm lucky to do what I love. So
you found therapy in the work. Can I say that?
Yeah. And I mean, I went and saw a therapist a couple times, but I mean, it just didn't really work for me. It wasn't... You know, I just felt I'm going to find my happy and I'd write every day. That was my therapy, was just getting out. Exactly. I'd write to my son. I'd write to myself. You know, I'd find ways through it. And I didn't want my kid growing up thinking that me and his dad didn't like each other, you know? Even now he'll be like, why are you and dad not together? I'm like, well, we decided we're way better as best friends and that's just what we want, you know? And so many people love you and you're so lucky. That's kind of like our take on it. Because, you know,
you're going through this. I just look at this too with how much was on your plate and how many people were dependent on you. And I'm thinking about the hundreds of people that are kind of in placements and doing things and you're kind of going into the bathroom, letting out a good cry, coming back out and kind of going, okay, so where are we going?
Or people had like showed up for a meeting at the office. And I remember Rebecca, my old associate, would like open the door and be like, okay, I'm not today. No, sorry, she's actually on the phone. And it's a really important call. And I'm like, like, oh my God.
What really happens in the boss's office, right? Yeah. She's just having a bit of a meltdown. She'll
And I think the biggest heartbreak of it, and I'm sure other women who have gone through this would say, and you know, we do 50-50 with our son, which is great because he's a great dad. It was not having my kid 100% of the time anymore. Not being able to see and not having that access to my child just when I wanted him. You know, and my ex is really great. Like when I travel or he travels, we'll switch weekends. Like it's not, there's no animosity anymore. There's nothing going on. It's really pleasant. But that was my biggest heartbreak, was not having my kid with me. And you don't have a kid to have them half the time, right? That's not the purpose of creating life. But I also, you know, had watched other friends and other mothers build their life entirely for their children. And then near retirement age, or when their kids are, you know, going to university, they don't have a purpose and they don't know who they are.
They don't know who they are.
Yeah. And I didn't want to be that because I think it's really healthy for my kid.
I think it's amazing for him to see a strong woman, leader, provider.
Yeah.
You know, if you looked at your checklist and the life lessons that your son is learning from you, I
hope there's some, you know.
I think there's a lot.
And then the best was, I was like, okay, well, I only have him 50% of the time. What am I going to do with this other half? So I decided to start traveling and showing up. I think Woody Allen, who I don't like quoting for obvious reasons, said 80% of it is just showing up. So I started going to the American film market. I started going to the European film market. You know, I would say yes to opportunities. You know, I met David Ortiz at one of our movies got into TIFF, and we had like a premiere party, and I met David Ortiz there at the after party. He was like there for Red Sox reasons. And we started talking, and then he started talking about making movies in the Dominican. And then a week later, me and my business partner get an email saying, you know, come to the Dominican for David's retirement party. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm not gonna say no to that. Of course, I'll go, you know, and then there we are partying with Beyonce's mom and who, you know, like, I'm like, this is.
But it's you showing up.
But it's me showing up.
So it's the domino effect. Yeah. And I think when you're looking at people taking it, like switching mindset and looking at opportunities, 80% of it is just showing up.
And I could sit there crying about how I don't get my kid 100% of the time, but it's not going to do any service for me in any way. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take that 50% of the time and I'm going to fill it with stuff I love, opportunities. And yeah, there's some days I sit at home and, you know, just watch Netflix and in my slippers and do nothing. But it's about making the most of that time that I'm not sitting there just angry and sad.
When you say 80% of the time is showing up, what would you give advice? Mm-hmm. Because people are going to look at you and, you know, when I look at, you've like gotten over 90, you know, projects worldwide now and major films and, you know, and you have schmoozed with the A-listers and people. I mean, I know Jennifer Lawrence was, you know, part of that, you know, like, it's like, hey, what would you say? Like, what are your tips or suggestions of coming at it and finding the success that you have and knowing that there's going to be, and I'm learning, it's not all in a straight line.
You know what it is?
There's a lot of ups and downs.
It's like, there's a couple things, and I like say these all the time. The worst anything anyone will say to you is no. And then you're no further along than when you started. Whether it's an actor coming into an audition, it's the worst case scenario is they're going to say no. So why stress about it? It's such wasted time, right? So there's that in life. Just ask. Just ask for what you want, one. Two is taking time for gratitude. Like, I'm not a very religious family. Like, my dad played music all the time when he was a kid. Like, and I think we were baptized Lutheran through like a Latvian church, whatever it was. I don't know. But, and I baptized my son because my grandma asked, because I had my kid out of wedlock, and she was like, the least you could do is this. And I was like, all right, well, I'll get you the VIP pass to heaven if that's what we need. But he, it's at night, instead of doing the prayer, we do, what are you grateful for? So we lie in bed and I ask him what 3 things he was grateful for in the day. So it's just a good way to start your day and end your day, is think of 3 things you're grateful for. Because as no matter what the worst day was, did you wake up? Are you relatively healthy? Were you able to shower today and clean water? Like, you can find the most simple things to be like, okay. I don't know. Those are the things I use, basically.
I like that. I like the worst case scenario is no.
Yeah.
I think so many people don't ask or don't try just for the fear of failure. And I can imagine in your industry, failure is 95% of the time until you get that one, you know.
And I had mass amounts of failures. Like, I did my taxes wrong between 2010 and 2013. I ended up with a $98,000 debt 2 weeks before my ex walked out on me. It took me 10 months to get out of that debt. But I was like, it was a stressful time. And female business women or any business people don't even talk about proper accounting. Like, I was 20 something and I was working at daycare and running a business. I didn't know how to do corporate taxes. I was like, I think this is right. Also, math isn't my thing. But now I have a proper accountant and it'll never happen again. You know, like, there's moments that, and I think it's important, especially for young female entrepreneurs who want those lessons. The quicker you learn them, you know, the less likely they're going to happen to you.
Where do you suggest young female entrepreneurs? There weren't that many when you started out.
No.
Where should they be going now?
I mean, I have some great mentors, but But there's some entrepreneur groups, like there's the EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization. There's a bunch of places, but there must be places in town. I've just like, knock, like I think it was 3 months after my ex left me. One of my mentors, Diane, who owns Accurate, which is an advertising company, called me and said, I'm looking for keynote speakers for the EO Sprott School of Business Girls Day at Carleton. Mm-hmm. Would you be our keynote speaker? And I said, okay. I dropped out of there, but can I still go? And she's like, yeah. So I went and did that because I just was like, I'm going to say yes. I'm just going to show up and I'm going to do it. I'd never keynote speaked at that time. I'd guest speak at Carleton, at Algonquin and different acting classes, but I hadn't spoken about me. But since then I've done like Queens and other places, and it's
different when you're doing a keynote of other topics and changing it onto yourself. I've learned that one.
Yeah. And since then I've opened 2 other businesses, and, I enjoy what I do.
For people who are looking for more information, I mean, as you had mentioned, we are ignorant in what is happening here in the city, Toronto, Montreal. There's a sound studio coming to Ottawa. Like there's a big business and big opportunity here now.
Yeah. Yeah. And they need more crew too. Like if working on a movie set's your thing, talk to the Ottawa Film Office. Like there's a lot of opportunity for people here.
And how are you finding your talent?
Me? Well, A, through agencies, B, through our database, as well as our social media following is pretty big.
So how do people get to you then?
So they can go on Facebook.
Yeah.
And the OG original group I started my business on is Smyth Casting Ottawa, which was a group before the pages even existed. Or you can go to our page, Smyth Casting, or you can go to our Instagram, which is at Smyth Casting. And that's Y.
Yes.
Like the road, Smyth. No E either. But yeah, you go there and
0 to 100, you're looking for people all the time?
All the time. I mean, if you're 0, probably not.
Yeah,
but like up until like 3 or 4, we're looking for twins. I get a lot of people being like, my toddler's super cute. I'm like, do you have 2 of them? And do they look the same? Because it's a time thing on set, right? So
usually anyone younger than 3?
Yeah.
Twins.
Sometimes 4.
Sometimes 4.
Yeah.
These are little things into the industry, right?
Yeah.
That you're trying to figure out.
Yeah. No, I have a lot of tips. Do a whole other one just on acting.
Okay, give me 3. Yeah, because the time's run out.
Right.
Okay, three tips for those that are wanting to get into the industry. Before I wrap this up.
An agent works for you. You don't work for them. And an agent shouldn't take anything from you except for the percentage, 15% of what you make, which is what a proper agent does. You need training. Shocking. You wouldn't go do brain surgery if you didn't train for it. And learn relaxation, meditate. Be prepared for a no, because it'll happen, but be okay with it. That's about it.
You can find it all Smyth Casting, SMYTH on Facebook, their Facebook group. And Ilona, thank you so much. I think it's really just interesting to know the stories and the businesses that are happening here that I think I had no idea. Like when I was on that set, I'm like, oh my God, this is happening. You're like, this is happening at 4 other places today. It was really quite fascinating. And that's a wrap of Living Your Life with Lianne Laing. Thanks so much for listening, for subscribing, liking, sharing, and helping to see the podcast grow. Ilona, thanks so much. And everyone else, have a great day.